FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
What I got that night was that when the shaman healed me, and he healed me in one night, I was dying. I lost 35, 40 pounds in a week. I was really dying in the Amazon. I was a very young man. It was terrifying. But during the shamanic journey, what I got was, yes, that my mother's voice was constantly telling me that as I drank this chicha, this beer that's made out of manioc root that women chew and spit. Some of you I know have been there with Pachamama Alliance. And every time I drank that or I ate these grubs that you pick out of a tree, I could hear my mother saying, "You're going to be sick, son. This is going to kill you." So it was killing me. But on that shamanic journey that night, I saw how incredibly healthy the Shwa people and the Achwa people are. The men are all built like Rambo, and the women are beautiful and sexy and fertile, and people live to be very old if they're not killed in some accident, and accidents happen a lot in the jungle. But so I just get this message that there was something wrong with my mindset, that what my parents had taught me was wrong. And in that night, I changed my mindset. And I think that's where we are today in this world, that we need a mindset change. And I'm also reminded of another story that happened much more recently. I go back to the Amazon a lot. I have children there. I have godchildren there. And recently I was there, and I went on a hike for a couple of nights up to the sacred waterfall with three indigenous warriors, young men of the tribe. And we went up to the sacred waterfall and did ceremony there, spent a couple of nights there, and then we came back. And as we were approaching the community where they live, where I was staying, they stopped and bent down. And the two men examined this plant. They go down and they looked very carefully at this plant next to the trail. And they looked at me and they said, "This plant is sick, and it wasn't sick 3 days ago when we went up to the sacred fall." And I looked at the plant, and it looked fine to me, a few brown leaves, but I'm wondering, how on earth did they see this? How did they ever notice this? So they said, "Well, we've got to call a meeting of the elders to discuss this." That night, practically all night long, this meeting went on it wasn't just the elders, it was everybody in the community. And this discussion arose. And by the end of the discussion, the whole community had agreed that they didn't have any proof that human beings and the trail had made this plant sick, but there was a possibility that the plant was sending a message that the trail was overused. And so that night they decided they'd close down that trail. They would never use that trail again, ever, because they got the message from the plant. I flew back a few days later, and as I'm driving home, listening to NPR radio station, there's this discussion going on about in Washington how they're having a dialogue, an argument about whether there's global warming or not. And since nobody can really prove that that global warming, if there is global warming, nobody can really prove that human beings are causing it. Nobody can really prove that carbon dioxide is causing it. Therefore, we probably shouldn't do anything. And I was struck by the incredible contrast between these primitive indigenous people who say, if there's any possibility that our actions today are hurting the future of our children and grandchildren, we're going to stop doing that. And us who are saying, if we can't prove that we're doing it, then let's not change. So this mindset that we're in, and I think all of us in our hearts know, certainly everybody in this room, but I think even the people who fight these things, deep in their hearts know that we're at this time when we must change. Everything's telling us we must change. All the mythology, the eagle and the condor, a lot of you know that story, and the mythology that comes out of the Amazon and the Andes, and the Hopi legends, the Tibetan legends, all of these are telling us that we've entered this incredible time when we must look at change. when we must change if we want to survive as a species. And I think in our hearts, everybody really gets it, even those who resist it. But they keep fighting it because there's so many vested interests involved.